Hey everyone, today we're going to dive into a story that's, well, it's one of the greatest stories ever told, really. It's the story of humanity's epic, centuries-long quest for healing. We're talking about a journey from ancient rituals all the way to modern medical miracles. It's filled with brilliant minds, some pretty bizarre ideas, and discoveries that literally changed the world. So let's get into it. So, let me ask you something right off the bat. What if your life, your actual life, depended on magic? It sounds crazy, right? But for most of human history, that was pretty much the reality. When you got sick, the line between medicine and magic, it was totally blurry. It was this desperate mix of hope, a few natural remedies, and a whole lot of praying to the supernatural. And that's exactly where our story kicks off. All right, so let's journey back, way back. We're talking about the very dawn of healing. This is the first chapter of our story, long before science was even a thing. Early civilizations, they just started to look around, to observe the world, and they came up with the very first ways to fight back against sickness and injury. You know, early healing was this really fascinating mix of stuff. On one hand, you had the practical, common sense approaches, like using herbal remedies, stuff they learned just by watching and learning. But on the other hand, you had spiritual rituals. We're talking prayers, ceremonies, all designed to keep the gods happy. And here's the crucial part. They started writing it all down. In texts like the ancient Egyptian papyrus Ebers, they created the very first medical guides. Pretty amazing, right? So this mix of nature and superstition, it was the name of the game for thousands of years. But then, something started to change. A few brilliant thinkers showed up on the scene, and they started asking completely different questions. These pioneers, they're the ones who began to build the real foundations of medicine, because they shifted the focus away from the gods and onto the patient. And you just cannot talk about foundations without talking about this guy, Hippocrates. I mean, what he did was absolutely revolutionary. He came out with this totally radical idea that diseases weren't some punishment from the gods. No, he said they had natural causes, causes that you could actually study and understand. And this quote really says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures his whole philosophy. He was all about careful observation, about diagnosis, and about having an ethical code for doctors. By doing that, he basically created the blueprint for the modern doctor, stressing that prevention and patient care were the most important things of all. Okay, now fast forward about 1,000 years. We're in the Islamic Golden Age, and another absolute giant steps onto the stage. Avicenna. This guy wasn't just a doctor. He was a philosopher, a scientist, a true polymath. And what he did was take all the medical knowledge that existed at the time and pull it together into something just extraordinary. He created this masterpiece called the Canon of Medicine. And listen, this wasn't just some book. It was the definitive medical encyclopedia for more than 600 years, both in the Islamic world and in Europe. It didn't just preserve the work of people like Hippocrates, it built on it, adding all sorts of new discoveries in things like pharmacology and clinical practice. But you know, progress, it's rarely a straight line, is it? For centuries, even with these incredible minds doing their thing, that knowledge didn't just spread overnight. It was patchy. So medicine entered this period where healing was, well, it was a very strange and frankly often dangerous art. And it was all based on some really flawed ideas about how the human body worked. And this right here, it perfectly shows you just how big that gap in understanding was. For over 2,000 years, the main theory was the four humors. The idea was if you were sick, it's because you had an imbalance of these four fluids in your body, blood, phlegm, and so on. So the logical treatment? Balance them out, which often meant, bloodletting. Now, just think about that. Compared to today's germ theory, it's not just a different idea, it's a completely different universe of understanding. And that brings us to the great turning point in our story. After centuries of slow progress and, let's be honest, a few wrong turns, we hit an era of pure revolution. This is when a series of mind-blowing breakthroughs finally transformed medicine into a real, powerful science. I mean, just look at this timeline. Suddenly, the pace of discovery just takes off. It accelerates dramatically. Breakthroughs start stacking one on top of the other, each one making the next one possible. It's this incredible explosion of knowledge that completely changed our relationship with disease forever. And it really kicks off here with Andreas Vesalius. This guy challenged centuries of old, wrong ideas by actually dissecting human bodies himself. What did he do? He created the first truly accurate charts of our anatomy, For the very first time, we had a reliable map of the human body. And for surgery, that was an absolute game changer.
Okay, next up, Edward Jenner. And his story is amazing. He just noticed something. He saw that milkmaids who got a mild disease called cowpox didn't seem to get the deadly smallpox. And from that one simple observation came the vaccine, humanity's first real, powerful, proactive weapon against infectious disease. That one idea has saved millions upon millions of lives. It's just staggering.
And then came Louis Pasteur. He's the one who proved that those invisible enemies people had suspected were actually real. His work in microbiology confirmed germ theory once and for all. He showed that these tiny little organisms are what cause disease. And that one single discovery, it revolutionized everything: hygiene, sanitation, surgery, even how we keep our food safe. So all of those revolutions, one after another, they lead us right here, to the modern medical era. You and I, we are literally living in the world that these pioneers built. We're armed with knowledge and tools that they could only have dreamed of. And here's the really cool part. It's all connected. You see, Vesalius' work mapping the body, that paved the way for advanced surgery and anesthesia. Pasteur's germ theory, that led directly to antibiotics and the whole field of pharmacology. And when you put those breakthroughs together, they unlocked everything else: diagnostic imaging like X-rays, our understanding of DNA, and the global public health systems that protect us today. It's like each discovery stands on the shoulders of the one that came before it. So, what's the result of all this? What's the ultimate impact of this entire incredible journey? Well, it boils down to this one staggering number. Because of all the struggles and all the breakthroughs we've just talked about, the average person on this planet today lives decades longer than their ancestors did just over a century ago. Decades. That is the incredible legacy of medicine.
Really, what this is all about is to make you fall in love with the story of medicine, with its struggles, with its heroes, and with the incredible discoveries that, let's be real, literally saved humanity. And you know what? It's a story that every single one of us is a part of. Thanks for joining me on this journey.